No, man, but you got to keep going. What am I going to do, quit? That's not an option. You got to keep on keeping on. Life's a garden, dig it? You make it work for you. You never give up, man. That's my philosophy.
Hey, gardeners. Hope you're all having a great week out in your gardens. Just out here on the back patio, and I got to start really pulling some tomatoes off of this sun gold plant we've got back here. But I wanted to show you my pepper plants. This is my Sugar Rush Peach experiment that we're running here, and trying to grow out these pods that look like this here. They got their ends pushed in versus coming out like this other one here. Although I might have to try some pods from a couple of others that I saved last year, because these plants really are just producing more of the regular Sugar Rush Peach pods. So we're gonna have to find some genetics from one of our other pods and give that a shot for our next round. So all right, everybody, we got Gardener Scott with us today. BigWilldog's here too. So all right, let's get growing.
All right, all my passionate plant people and garden enthusiasts. Welcome to the Let's Get Growing show right here on the Urban Gardener channel. I'm Enoch. I'm your host today, and we've got a great show for you today. We always got a great show, but today's the return of our good friend, Scott Wilson. Gardener Scott is joining with us here, yes, on a Saturday show. And he's here also to answer all your gardening questions later. And then we've got our good friend, you know him from all of our chats each and every weekend here on the show. We've got BigWilldog in the soil with us here for Are You Following Me? Coming up here in just a few minutes here. So great guests for us here today. And as I mentioned, Scott, he hasn't been around the last couple of months for his normal second Sunday of the month. So we've got some catching up to do with him. So I'm really excited about talking with Scott here just a little bit later on the show. And then, of course, got to talk to Willie, our good friend in the soil, coming up. So really excited about that. Thank you all so much for being here with us today. And of course, if you can, let's go ahead and do this. Let's hit that like button, hit the thumbs up, as well as subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Bell notification to be notified of all of our upcoming live streams here on the Let's Get Growing show, as well as share with all your friends. Let all those garden friends you know out there know about the Let's Get Growing show here each and every weekend, every Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Urban Gardener channel. And big, huge shout out to all of you who are watching us on the replay. Thank you, replay watchers, Team Replay in the house. So thank you again for being here with us on your time. Like always, let's go down into that comment section down below. Let me know you're here. Let me know where you're growing from, what you got growing on in your garden. I want to hear all about the amazing things that you're harvesting out of your gardens at this time of year. So get down into that comment section below. And of course, if you're here with us live, as I already see plenty are already in the chat right now. So if you haven't jumped in yet, go ahead and jump into the chat with everybody else here. Let us know you're here. We've got roll call coming up. So let us know where you're growing from, what you got growing on. Just like all of our replay watchers, let's jump into that chat there for our roll call coming up in just a couple of minutes. We'll give you all here a big, huge shout out for joining us here on the show with us today live. And of course, drop in your questions and comments in the chat, especially today. We've got Gardener Scott coming up later in the show. That's what he comes here for, is to answer all of your gardening questions. So I want to see all of those awesome garden questions. Drop those into the chat, and we will ask those of Gardener Scott later on in the show. And all of your other comments and all that sort of stuff will feature right there at the bottom of the screen throughout the show. And also, We want to thank you all for all of your donations. If you got donations to the show, you can find links to the description below. We push more of these direct donations, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, those sort of things versus the YouTube super shares and all that sort of stuff that they do there. It just gets a little bit more to us anyways. So if you got a donation, definitely drop into the description below and check out one of those links there. And we really, really do appreciate all that you do to contribute to the show. We've had lots of great contributions over the last couple of weeks, and really, really goes to help put on a really good show here. So thank you so much, everybody. We got also links down below in the description too to our guests. You want to go and check them out. Go see one of their recent videos or posts or something, and let them know that you saw them here on the Let's Get Growing show. And I think also too, we got Gardner Scott down there, so we got a link to his book and all of that stuff as well too. So you want to go and check those out in our links down below. All right, everybody. Excellent. Again, to have you here, really great. Hope, like I said at the beginning, the very beginning there, I hope everything's been growing really awesome out in your gardens. And like I said, drop into the chat, let us know all about it. Each week now, for the last couple of weeks, we've been kind of doing something I call Pumpkin Watch. We are I'm just kind of giving a little week to week update on how our little pumpkin patch out the back alleyway is growing, where this year we are growing, where I'm trying to ultimately grow the biggest pumpkin I've ever grown. We've got a dill Atlantic variety of pumpkin out there. We've grown 2 plants. So we got 2 main vines and 2 possible fruits to try to break my own personal record. And yeah, that's about 137 pounds. And I know those big pumpkins out there in those competitions are way, way bigger. In fact, I think that from what I'm hearing, a couple of folks who are attempting, and mind you, and they've got really great pumpkins growing right now as I'm following along with them online. One of them, who broke the record a couple of years ago, believes he might have the world's first 3,000 pounder. We'll just have to wait and see if it actually survives through the season to make it to that weight class. But wouldn't that be something? 3,000 pounds. And as I was mentioning before, you get into like maybe one of your more local county fairs, maybe 500 to 1,000 will get you some prizes or something like that. You get into a state fair and those state competitions, you're going to have to get up close to 2,000 pounds. In fact, we've had on the show over the last few years, Cindy Tobeck. She lives up in Washington State. She's a world champion grower herself. And I follow along with her, and she just had like one of her really sad posts. Like I said, these things got to make it through a season. And when they start to get that big, there's so many things that can actually go wrong with a big giant pumpkin like that. And she made a post this last week where she was sitting next to her pumpkin she thought she was going to be able to break the Washington State record with, but it had a blossom end crack on it. And when it starts doing that, they're not competition viable at that point. So she had to let that one go. I think she's got a couple of others, but that was her one that she was really hoping to get that record on. So again, we grow these things out similar to the peppers I showed you at the beginning of the show today. I had to grow those out from seed and get the starts going, get them planted out, and then grow them out to a certain point where we're at now, where they're really producing a lot of the pods, but the pods aren't looking the way I wanted them to look from the genetics that we're trying to preserve and breed down into these types of plants. I do have a couple of other pods that I will try and try some new plants and do that. But we've got to grow them all throughout this process. And it takes months and months to get to the point where you learn and find out whether or not they are what you were looking for. And that's the same thing with those big competition pumpkins. You got to grow them through, grow them out, get them really big. And then, as they're growing and swelling, I mean, they grow. I mean, some of these are gaining 45, 50 pounds a day on some of those big giant pumpkins like that. And that's a lot of weight gain. That's a lot of growth, and it can cause splitting. It can break the vines, and all of that sorts of stuff can happen with those things. So luckily mine aren't gonna be that big, but hopefully, like I said, we could break my own personal record of 137 pounds with our big giant pumpkins. Let's take a look here. This was last week. There's a little pumpkin patch, and there's our main our first one anyways. I call it the main fruit, but it was our first fruit, and then this is our second fruit. So again, back to last week's first fruit. So let's take a look. This is what it looks like this week. Boom. Yeah, it's actually gaining some weight, and also really starting to gain that orange color is really starting to take over the fruit there for sure. But yeah, getting bigger and bigger. I don't know if it's quite twice the size like it grew last week, but it's definitely getting bigger. So, all right, here's last week on our second fruit. And here it is this week. Yes, definitely starting to swell up. And as you can tell, it's a little bit further behind than the other one. So it hasn't started to get that orange on the end of it yet. But it's definitely getting to the point where it's starting to gain weight and swelling up. I would say that it's almost twice the size as it was definitely last week. So, yep, that's our update from the pumpkin patch for this week there. They're growing along nicely, and hopefully one of those two will break my own personal record for sure. All right, everybody. Have you been jumping into the chat here? I want to see all of those great updates on your gardens. Let me know where you're growing from, all of that sort of stuff, because it's time now for roll call.
My name is Kevin. Yeah. That is my name. Yeah. They call me Kevin. Yeah. Because that's my name. Roll call.
All right, roll call time. And this is the part of the show where we get to give you, the viewers, those who are joining with us here live, a big, huge shout out on the show. And let's dig in here and see who we got with us today. And of course, right at the top of roll call, we want to give a big, huge shout out to our good friend and chat facilitator, producer, Jay, the J-Bot, joining us from Huron County, Midwestern Ontario, Canada, in the lee of Lake Huron. Keep an eye out in the chat there for links and further information on topics we're discussing today. Jay does a great job every single week, and we really, really appreciate it. Chad from Down Home Backyard Gardening in the chat with us as well, too. Hey, how you doing? How's it going? Awesome to see you. Just let you all know here too, I finally found an open date coming up. It'll be a couple of weeks. We'll talk about it a little bit more, but I'm going to finally get to go over and hang out with Chad over at Down Home Backyard Gardening here real soon too. So that's going to be real fun. All right. We got Vic Wick Gardens joining with us here as well. Thank you for being here with us today. Great to see you. Joe from Muddy Puddles Farm says, hi there, Will. Looking forward to watching you tonight. That's right. It's evening time for Joe over at Cornwall, England. Awesome to have you here with us today. Meg's Edible Landscapes with us as well, too. Great to have you here. Hippie Chick Homestead as well. Yay, Gardner Scott and BigWilldog in the soil. Yes, that's right. The perfect way to spend my morning. Excellent. We got morning for Hippie Chick over here. I know she's on the West Coast over here with us. And evening for Joe over in the UK right now. So we got people from all over the day today, right here, right now, live on our show as well. From over in England too, we've got our good friend Rob from Rob's Allotment Gardening joining with us here. Good day to you, Rob. Great to see you here. Thanks for joining with us today. Janet's in the chat too. Looking forward to everybody together. Yeah, it's so fun getting to hang out. I love my days where I get to hang out on the weekends here with all of you. So awesome. And here's our guest in the chat as well too. From Indianapolis. He says it's warm but overcast outside, but hopefully we'll get some sun soon. Oh, we'll just have to talk all about that coming up here in just a few minutes with our friend Will. And Joe says, hello from Cornwall, UK. Cooler here today, still waiting for rain. Awesome. Let's see here. We've got Dusty Flats. The way animals are attacking odd things they never bothered with before. I wonder if it will be an actually winter this year. Yeah, oh my. And that's another thing too I should have showed on that beginning clip there too. I think I finally got my first animal pest in the alleyway. So one that's getting into a spot, and I don't think my cat George has been noticing them to try to get them off, but it might be like one of the raccoons or something that runs through here or something every now and then. I was munching on one of my melons I discovered just earlier today. Yay. Let's see here. Vic says, I'm in Connecticut. We got a few more weeks without snow. Oh, yeah. It's starting to wind down. Summer's winding down. Dusty Flat says, hello, everyone. Man, it's a sauna out there. The dew point is 76, temperature is 86, and it feels like 96. Wow. Yeah, that's quite a range right there. Yikes. All right. We got David from Bowtie Life in the garden here with us as well. He says he would not miss Gardener Scott if I could help it. I'm installing water in the kitchen sink as well as the dishwasher and hooking up the ice maker while listening. Woohoo. Yes. Awesome. Excellent. Joining us from Old Destin, where super hot peppers are coming in, pomegranates need picking, and the grapes are making us wait just a little bit longer. Yeah, exactly. Right on, everyone. We got Nancy in the chat with us here, joining us from northern New Jersey. Great to have you here, Nancy. Thank you so much for jumping in on the chat with us. And our other moderator and good friend from right up the road from me here in Central Point, Southern Oregon, we got our friend Adam Burley joining with us today. Great to see you, Adam. Somebody say hi, Eddie. It's Eddie in the chat with us here. Great to have you with us. Thank you so much. Excellent. We got Croc Gardner in the chat too. Says, don't worry, Will, I made it. Excellent. And we've got here as well too, Kim joining us from Minnesota, Zone 4A. Excellent. And Rebecca's Garden. Excellent. Thank you so much for being here. Chad says, excited for today's show. How awesome. Yes, indeed. We got the Coast to Coast gardeners here with us as well today. Awesome. We've got Sam in the chat too. Much love, Global Gardeners. Excellent. All right. Here we go. And we also got Pam. Hello, everyone. Looking forward to seeing Big Will. Excellent. Yes, we'll have him here in just a minute with us. And Dusty says, did anyone see Joe's giant onion? Oh my, I haven't seen the giant one yet. I remember last time we had her on, she was harvesting a bunch of onions and all of that. But yeah, let's see here. Rebecca's Gardening says Cypress, Texas, and it's very hot. Excellent, everybody. Thank you so much for jumping in on our roll call today. And if you didn't get your shout out here for roll call, definitely drop into the chat there. We'll continue to feature everybody throughout the show, along with all of your comments. And remember, drop in those gardening questions for Gardener Scott coming up here in just a little bit. We're going to go ahead and take our first little break here real quick, and we'll be right back with our first guest today. We got Big Will with us. How exciting. Right on.
Hello, let's get growing live gardening community. I'm Charles Malky, biologist and co-founder of Ivy Organic brand products. Ivy Organic is based on whitewashing, a time-tested way to protect plants from summer sunburn, winter sun scald, pest, transplant shock, and environmental stresses. Unlike latex or tar-based products that crack, peel, and leave residue on your soil indefinitely, Ivory Organic is truly organic and a healthier alternative. It dries on porous, allowing plants to breathe and heal naturally without rotting. Also ideal for protecting your pruning and grafting wounds. Available in white for maximum reflection or natural tones like brown, green, gray, and grayish. Ivory Organic protects while blending beautifully with your landscape. Choose from the whitewash oil-free formula or the 3-in-1 plant guard made with natural oils to help repel insects and rodents. Protect your plants the smart, organic way with Ivory Organic. Learn more at ivoryorganics.com and wishing you all happy gardening.
Hi gardeners, I'm Brandy, the Suburban Gardenista, and I'm here today with your garden trivia question for this week. Your question for today is, how can you tell the difference between male and female monarch butterflies? And your options are A, the brightness of their orange color, B, the black veins or spots on their wings, C, the shape of their body or thorax, or D, the way that they give you a little wink when they come and visit your flowers. Let us know what you think in the chat, and I'll be back a little bit later in the show with the answer.
So, all right, do you know the answer to Brandy's trivia question for this week? I'm going to go with D. Anyways, thank you to Brandy. Stay tuned for her answer on our next break, as well as a big, huge thank you to Ivy Organics, our great, awesome sponsors. They're ivyorganics.com. Go and get some of that 3-in-1 plant guard. Use our promo code GROW10, GROW10, to get 10% off. Excellent. Did you get a chance to check out last week's shows? We had a really great weekend of shows last weekend. We had with us last Saturday on the show, Nick Katsumpis from Farmer Nick joined with us last week. Really great, fun conversation with Nick, talking about all sorts of growing things and how he got started in creating the Farmer Nick brand and all that sort of stuff. Some really great stories he had to tell about that, as well as a bunch of other great information in that conversation, as well as we got to meet Jan from the Alchemy of Gardening. That was a great interview as well. Two amazing, awesome guests on last Saturday's show. So I hope if you didn't get a chance to check out those conversations, you go back and check those out from last Saturday, as well as the Sunday edition. Last Sunday on the show, we had joining with us Craig LaHoulier. He's the author of the book Epic Tomatoes. Craig came back with us to do a whole bunch of, again, tomato talk. And we usually got on the second Sunday of the month, our good friend Gardener Scott joining with us and answering all of your gardening questions. But fortunately, we filled that in with another great guest last Sunday, Craig LaHoulier, answering all of your tomato questions. And that's why we had to have him back too. Last couple of times we've had Craig on the show with us, I mean, the tomato questions just go crazy. We can't even get to all of those questions. So we're definitely going to have him back again to try to answer even more of those tomato questions. But guess what? Fortunately, our good friend Gardener Scott is joining with us today. So if you didn't get any of those tomatoes questions answered from last Sunday's show, well, you can ask Gardener Scott today, and I'm sure he's got the answer for you as well, too. So if you also have any tomato questions, drop those into the chat with us there today. And all right, everybody, let's get moving on today. It's time for Are You Following Me?
Are you following me? Are you following me, dude?
All right. So everybody is quite familiar if you come and join the show every weekend here in the chat with today's Are You Following Me guest. It's great to finally find a spot to bring him on and have him on the show with us today. We have joining us, it's Will, Big Will, in the soil. How you doing, my man?
I'm good. How about you?
It's great, doing great. Awesome to hang out with everybody today. It's really awesome, again, like I said, to finally have you on for our Are You Following Me? We get to see you here. You come and join all of our community shows. We see you in the chat every week and everything, but now we officially have you on the show for Are You Following Me? So how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Today's a great show to be on here. Being in front of Gardner Scott, who's like one of my inspirations. So I'm having
Yeah.
a good day.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, yeah. It's great to be the opening act for such a great guest like Gardner Scott, though, right?
Oh yeah, I'm
Right.
completely fine with everybody being here for Gardner Scott. Okay, I'm not disillusioned.
That's that's all right. That's all right. We'll sneak you in here for a bit, though. So, tell me a little bit about. Let's see, if for those who might not be too familiar, I know everybody's seeing you in the chat and everything. Let's give you a minute or two to kind of just introduce yourself, tell everybody all about you and your channel in the soil.
Yeah, so it's really BigWilldog age unit soil, and I started out as a sort of kind of a helper or a more of a motivator for those who were like me with physical issues. It's
Hmm.
real easy to get in your head and say, I can't do this because I can't A, B, or C. So
Right.
to keep myself from making excuses, I figured, why not gardening? And I figured it wasn't a well there wasn't many channels that were specifically geared towards people in that kind of a life.
Yeah.
So it was like, why not try to do that as best as I can, even
Yeah.
though I don't represent everybody with issues.
Right. Right.
It sort of kind of rolled into tips for everybody.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Just a little, something a little specific, but it still kind of works for most everybody, anyways. And yeah, so again, too, really great. What got you into gardening? I mean, where does your garden story get started, though, Will?
Really, I didn't really get into it until the pandemic because the thing with me is I haven't been able to work a job because of the reason I got out of the military was medical, and there's a bunch of stuff that comes along with it. For me, sitting around, it's nice saying, oh, I wish I could just not do anything. I don't want to have to go to work. I want to just stay at home. That
Yeah,
gets boring very, very fast. And then my biggest thing was the military gave me a sense of me doing for others, and I had lost that. And I think that was my biggest thing. So I'd rather be a
mhm,
benefit instead of somebody needing the assistance of others. So I figured starting a channel and dedicating it, at least initially, to those that were like me with physical issues was my way of continuing to do community service,
mhm.
but in a different way. And then, like I said, things just start rolling, and then you sort of kind of find your own niche. You find your own way of doing things, um, and things change a little bit, but it's still the same road for the most part.
Yeah, 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 definitely. So, I mean, what was it though specifically? So again, you're had you had some sort of experience with gardening before? Was this just something like you ran into online and you're like, "Oh, that looks interesting," or were you out and saw, like maybe at the garden center or something like that, or one of those big box stores and they had the plants out front? And you're like, "Oh, let me try growing one of those." I mean, was there something specific that really caught your attention when it came to growing and gardening?
Well, my family, my mom, well, both my parents' side of family, my mom grew up on a farm in rural Virginia, and again, my father, his family is from Virginia too, and
Mhm.
my mom used to tell stories about, pigs doing this or curing tobacco, putting it up in the smokehouse, and all this that they used to do.
Yeah.
And because my grandparents really are a big part of who I am and why I do things, it just sort of kind of fell upon me because I had plenty of time on my hand to learn. Because you don't, even if you have a background in farming or growing, when you're
Mhm.
doing it yourself, it takes
Yeah.
time. You have to
Yeah.
figure things out. So
Mhm.
that was just one of those things. It's just like, why not do it? Plus, for my own benefit, for my own health and family health and stuff like that, it was just during the pandemic, you have nothing but time, you know?
Yeah.
And then the more I just started doing it, and then eventually started doing the whole videos things, which that was the biggest challenge for me personally, is getting in front of the camera.
Yeah. It
But
is a challenge, isn't it?
yes. But doing that, it gives you another sense of purpose or another sense of doing. Like, you're still working for yourself, but you're also doing it to show others it can be done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Do you remember what your first plant was, or did you try a bunch of different things when you were
It was the
getting started?
tomatoes.
The tomatoes, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
because my wife.
Oh, okay. Yep. Tomatoes seem to be, again, too, as we find out from talking to so many different gardeners around here and stuff. Tomatoes seem to be one of those ones where people really get their start in gardening from.
Yeah. And that first time that I grew them, I think I got a total of like 20 tomatoes the entire season because I had them in clay heavy soil that was always soaked because of the gutters. So yeah.
So you only got a few, but I bet you've gotten better at it over the years, right?
Oh yeah, I learned real quick what I needed to not do.
Yeah. What are
So
some of what are some of the things that you don't do?
I don't just randomly pick a piece of ground and says that looks good enough,
There
because
you go.
most times it is not.
Yes.
Um, Secondly, I do not automatically assume that just because I have success in a different crop in a certain situation, that means I have the same success in any situation or
Oh,
any
yeah.
crop, because that's
Yeah.
totally false.
Yeah.
You can have the same plant in the same soil and have two different things going on with both of them. And the other thing is, I don't know everything. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know everything. So use the advice of others, or use the successes of others as a roadmap on what to do, what not to do, and then find your own way after that.
Yeah. Gardening does really help to enlighten us on that aspect of things, right? We don't know everything, and there's so much to learn and all of that too. But
Yeah.
that's the great thing about gardening is it's fun to go through that process, right?
Yeah, well, for some, if you're like a person, I'm analytically minded. My job in the military was actually avionics systems on fighter jets.
Yeah.
So I break down things
Wow.
real well. So I love a puzzle. I might complain and
Hmm.
whine about it the entire time, but I love a puzzle. And gardening is the perfect puzzle for anybody who likes that kind of thing.
Yeah, that does make sense. That's a good way of looking at it, right? Getting the right pieces together.
Yeah. And then trying to repeat that season after season.
Yeah. So tomatoes may have been the first thing that you grew in your garden. What's really your favorite thing? The thing that you really love to grow the most when it comes to gardening nowadays?
It would have to be probably strawberries. Strawberries.
Strawberries.
I had a real bad year a couple of years ago. All my plants that I had bought, paid good money for the warm season prior,
Yeah.
and they all died because I thought, "Ooh, it's in the green stock. Everything will be fine. It can survive winter." Wrong. Wrong.
They didn't do it.
Oh no. So after buying new plants and then figuring out how to get them through and propagate them, and they're doing well now.
Yeah.
And most of them are ever bearing. I did have one June bearing. I learned I don't like June bearing.
Yeah. Why do they even exist, right?
I get why they exist, but they're a pain because you get the fruit one time and then you're just managing runners for the rest
That's
of the season until they go
That's
dormant.
right. That's right. Yeah, exactly. I have like one patch where I think, there's a few of those just specifically still are growing and still going. But for the most part, yeah, I've got everbearings now. And
Mhm.
I just yesterday actually went around all the different strawberry patches where I've been propagating this year. So I've been letting runners go so I can get as
Mhm.
many new plants as possible. And I ended up, and I didn't even think, I was just adding them and grabbing them and putting them, I got these little stakes that I put into the little pots and stuff, and going around and just grabbing them wherever I've seen them, put a new little pot out. And I went around yesterday to go get them out of the garden space and ended up with 50 new plants.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. 50 new plants out of just a couple of just different strawberry patches. So I've got plenty to replace all my old plants for next season and all of that. So
And
yeah,
the
that's
ones
crazy.
that I got, like the runners that I rooted out in the beginning of the year, because I started getting strawberries in what was it, late March, early April. Those
Yeah.
plants are making strawberries already.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That's the thing too, is like you get the little runners on there and you get the one little plant. By the time you get to like to this, by the time I get to the second plant or the third one coming off of that runner, that first one's already starting to produce berries right
Yeah,
off the runners.
yeah. And they're all in containers because I'm planning on trying to give my sister some. I gave them plants last year and my mother, but they didn't let them, they didn't take care of them in the winter, right? So they all died.
Yeah.
So this year I'm giving them brand new plants when I see them for Thanksgiving. And this time I'm going to tell them I have a YouTube channel. I have a strawberry dedicated video on YouTube
Yes.
that will run you through it. So hopefully it'll turn out better.
Yeah, yeah, right. Oh, look at this here. This, Angela over at Hippie Chick Homestead says, "Love Big Will, even if he can't grow garlic."
Listen, I just gave her props in the chat that let everybody know that she was the winner for the single biggest bulb and the 5. So
That's right.
why am I getting the shade still?
Tell us a little bit about your little garlic competition.
Well, today is the last day for submissions for the garlic challenge. Today is it.
Oh, today's it, huh? So this is
Yes,
last call
yes,
today.
yes. This is the last day that I'll be searching and scrubbing, looking for people's videos. But it started out as a friendly challenge between an Air Force vet and a Marine vet that the Marine decided he wanted to take public. So we did. That was 2 years ago. So this year's winners so far, we usually do C2C, coast to coast.
Yeah.
We all battle each other, and then there's the broad spectrum. So the only ones that I've tallied up so far for winners has been the coast to coast, and Angela did win the weight of 5 biggest bulbs and the single biggest bulb, but I won for the single biggest bulb and a green stock. And somebody was gracious enough to call me the winner and sent me a championship belt for it.
Oh my God.
It's a mystery.
That's great.
The person who sent it to me has not come forward yet, but I want to say thank you for the prop and for knowing I'm a winner.
There you go. That's wonderful. That's really great. Excellent. Excellent. You are a champion.
Oh yes, I am. And I'll give it to Doug, the crop gardener. He won the first years, so
Oh,
give
okay.
him that.
All right.
So
All
I
right.
have not won the challenge that Chad and I started yet,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
beat Chad every year.
Yeah, watch out everybody though too. I got my good friend sending me new garlic this season. So
Come with it.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna be on it this next year. I didn't grow garlic this last year, otherwise I would have sent or submitted something at least, but I didn't grow any this year, which is really crazy. It's been like well over a dozen years since I've not grown any garlic. So I got a friend of mine sending me some new bulbs so that I can start up a new crops going and everything.
Yeah, you really busy dude. You've had stuff
Never
going
tell Will he's a
on.
champion. Yeah.
You've had stuff going on. In fact, you got that pepper thing, which is crazy, dude. I can't believe
Yeah.
you're going through that whole thing of trying to do your own pepper.
Yeah. Again, too, and it's a trials and tribulations when it comes to trying to breed or do something like that, which I've never really done before. But like I was mentioning earlier, I had to go through this whole season to grow these plants to the point where they're producing at the level they are now, so that I can see the types of pods that they're putting out. It's just to find out that I probably should have selected a few different groups again too. I'm first time trying to do something like this. I'm learning as I'm going myself right? So I should have done a few different groups from a few different pods. I really only tried this one. I was like, oh, this one's got to be the one, right?
Yeah.
And so I grew out a bunch of seeds from it, and most of the plants are just producing normal sugar rush peach. There are a few little puckered ones on there and all of that, but not like the ones that we took the plants last year. I mean, it was at least 60%. So I was really kind of confident in these pods, right? But you got to go through this whole season to grow them out and find out. So now I'm going to go and I'm going to try again too. We're going to do some groupings and get some started up this next week and hopefully have some plants going by the end of the season.
See, I couldn't do that because I'd fall right into the rabbit hole and never come out, because I'd be like, there's just too many variables and I have to nail down each one or follow the wrong path until I know it's the wrong path. Yeah, I'd be stuck in the weeds.
Yeah,
so more power.
Exactly. Eddie says, I'm coming for y'all next year. Right on. There you go.
Come on, Eddie. The more the merrier. Come on.
That's right. Bring it. And that's the cool thing about garlic, though, too, is that planting time's just a few weeks away. We're not too far away from actually getting that, getting those crops started. So,
and that first year we did garlic challenge, I had an almost epic fail. I planted like 40 different cloves and only had one survive the winter or whatever. So I only had one to turn in, and I was hating it the entire year. But I came in second place because I'm gracious. Croc's he's a cheater, but it's fine. We've gotten past that. But it gave me an entire year to sit and think, what went wrong? What should I do differently? Whatever. And out of that, I came with a game plan that ironed out exactly what my path forward is from now on. So it sucked, but it helped.
Right. Excellent. Let's see. Rebecca's Gardening is asking, what's best garlic to get for zone 9?
Soft neck.
A soft neck for a warm zone like that?
Soft neck, yes. You can do a hard neck, but you're going to have it in the fridge for, what is it, 2 months or something like that?
Yeah.
To let it do that vernalization and then put it in the ground.
But if we're trying to compete, though, are we really going to want to grow a soft neck?
Actually make big bulbs.
You get some big ones? Yeah,
because they make all those tiny cloves as well as the big cloves, and from what I've read, they're easier to get a larger bulb out of. The hard neck is more for if you want big pieces that are easy to peel and you only need like 1 or 2 of them tops. That's what you go for. But Angela, hippie chick homesick, she got her garlic from Chernobyl.
Okay.
And, so it's irradiated, and that's the only reason why she won. She had the Incredible Hulk of garlic from Chernobyl, so it's okay.
The Incredible Hulk of garlic. Oh my, that's great. That'll be something to see for sure. So all right. So again, we've talked about your favorite things to grow. What's your least favorite thing to grow in the garden?
Least favorite thing to grow used to be kohlrabi, just because I couldn't ever get it to bulb. It would grow nice, big, like almost dinosaur kale size, leaves and stuff. But you're not growing it for the leaves; you're growing it for the bulb. This year, thanks to Robin Gardens, she sent me a different variety, and I got all the kohlrabi I wanted. So that was cool. So it's no longer on my bad list.
Okay. All right.
My thing now is blueberries. Because I've only tried doing it in ground. I haven't put them in pots yet. And that's probably the direction I'm going to have to do it, just because of my heavy clay soil. I can't even add enough acidifier to keep those things happy. They just die.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah,
that was a big game changer for me. Was actually, I'd planted a bunch of blueberries out in the alleyway, along the alleyway, and grew them, and they sat out there for like at least like 3 seasons, just not doing much of anything. It just didn't look like they just were not happy. And then I took those same plants, pulled them out, stuck them in some containers, and again, put them in some more like acidic soil, and was able to control that a little bit better. And those plants just took off. And, so definitely was a big game changer from having them in ground versus being in pots where you can control the soil just a little bit better.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be my game plan from now on for that.
Yeah. Right on. What is your biggest gardening challenge that you have?
It's space, and you would think I've got a backyard and stuff like that, but I
I think
live in
that's
an
a common challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, I live in an HOA, governed neighborhood, and so I can only go so far. And as it is, I'm skirting the line. I might even have a pinky toe over the line, but as long as they're not watching, we're good. But then I've also got dogs, and the dogs didn't ask to be my pets, so I don't feel right taking a huge chunk of the yard away from them.
Yeah.
So trying to figure out ways of gaining more space in the yard without, going over the rules or, taking too much from my pets.
Yeah. Space can be a challenge for a lot of folks in all sorts of different ways.
Yeah. Now, when I move out, eventually, when I'm older and I need to go take care of my mom and my family's property out in Virginia, that's got all the space I want. Then I can do whatever I want. I've got free reign without somebody telling me not to do this, that, or the other. But I'm not old enough to do that yet. I'm not ready.
Not old enough yet.
No, because rural Virginia is a slow-paced life. That's I'm not doing anything, going at my own speed. I'm not ready for that yet. I'm too young. I got too much energy.
Yeah. Not quite the right time yet.
Yeah, I still want to grow stuff, but it's just not.
But isn't that all that space just tempting though?
Oh yes, and there's a pond there. I can fish and I can irrigate my crops if there's a drought or something. Oh yes, that's beautiful.
Right on. Well, you know what? It's been awesome to chat with you here on the show. I mean, really great. I want to give you one more quick minute here though before you head out though too. Give everybody a little promo on your channel and all of that. Let us know what you got growing and coming up here on BigWilldog 82 in the soil. We've got links down below in the description for everybody. If you haven't had a chance to go check out his channel and go subscribe and do all of that sort of fun stuff, definitely get over there and do that for sure. What's coming up?
Oh, I keep saying that I need to do my wicking bed build video. I always intended to do.
That sounds like an interesting one.
And then I just get sidetracked with this, that, or the other. I've got like half of it filmed, but I need to finish the rest of it. And so that is like on top of because I haven't done like one big project. I usually try to do a year.
Yeah.
And that's not a huge project really. But it's a project I want to get done, and that's been on top of mind because other people could use it. I mean, Eddie, who has issues with his garden right now, perfect thing for him. It's up off the ground. He could fit however many plants he wants in there. So that's the biggest thing I'm trying to get done.
Yeah.
On there. So hopefully I will get that here out soon before the end of the season.
Yeah. Some videos can be a challenge, right?
Yeah, I just wanted it out in spring, really. That way people could use it the whole season. It just didn't work out, so hopefully that's the big thing. But I also want to say thank you. Thank you to you and Jay for letting this be the place where I got comfortable being this. Because the first time I was on here, the first time that I did it, when you guys had the first community show, I was am I sure I want to do this? I did, but yes, this is where I popped my cherry on, as far as lives go. And so thank you.
Yes, absolutely. No problem at all. It's always great to see you on our community shows and in our chat each and every week. So it's really awesome to finally have gotten a chance to get you on our Are You Following Me and get to dig in a little bit into your gardening.
I'm
and hope. Yeah, that's right. You're official now. So I hope everybody, again, too, if you haven't had a chance and you haven't subscribed to BigWilldog 82 in the soil, like I said, we've got a link down below in the description for you there. Please go over there, give him a subscribe, go and check out one of his videos. Let him know that you saw him right here on the Let's Get Growing show. All right, Will. We'll see you again soon. We'll have a community show coming up again, too. So I'm sure it won't be too long before we see you again.
I'll be there.
All right. We'll be right back, everybody. Hey, gardeners. Thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals. And our incredible feature visits.
I'm back with the answer to this week's trivia question. Do you know how to tell the difference between male and female monarch butterflies? The correct answer is B, by the black veins or spots on their wings. The way to tell the difference between male and female monarch butterflies is subtle but distinct. And once you notice that difference, you won't unsee it. You'll be able to tell every single time these beautiful creatures come to visit your garden. The trick is to look at the black veins or spots on their wings, particularly their lower hind wings when the wings are open. Males have thinner veins and they have a small black spot on those lower hind wings. The females, they have thicker veins and no black spot. And that's it. It's easy peasy. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you would like to see more monarch butterflies in your garden, consider planting their host plant, milkweed. There's lots of different kinds of milkweeds, and I'm going to guess that there's a milkweed that will fit your garden conditions perfectly. So do a little bit of research, find a milkweed that's native to your garden, and then you're going to see those beautiful butterflies coming to visit you time and time again. And from now on, you're going to be able to tell which one is a male and which one is a female. And that's your garden trivia question for today. Thanks so much for playing. Enjoy the rest of the show and be sure to pop by the Suburban Gardenista on YouTube and Instagram. Let me know if this has changed the way that you look at monarch butterflies. There'll be a link for you down in the description below. Thanks again and happy gardening.
All right. Here we are back at it here. And a big, huge shout out to Brandy. Thank you so much for your garden trivia. Did you get the answer correct to our trivia question this week? If you did, definitely go over to the Suburban Gardenista. And again, we've got links down below in the description. And go let her know what you think of her garden trivia and check out her latest video over there at the Suburban Gardenista. Thank you, Brandy, for doing that trivia for us each and every week. It's so awesome to have you here on the show. And also, too, we've got another show coming up here tomorrow. That's right. We've got the Sunday edition of the Let's Get Growing show coming up tomorrow. And it's the third Sunday of the month. That means it's our monthly gardening book club. That's right. We've got our good friend, Mr. MBC, joining with us live on the show tomorrow in the garden, as well as here for our conversation with Charlie Nardozzi. We've got Charlie Nardozzi showing up for us tomorrow to talk all about his new book, The Continuous Vegetable Garden. It's a really, really great book, some really interesting perspective on gardening and growing and all of that. So I can't wait to hang out with our good friend, Mr. NBC, tomorrow, and Charlie Nardozzi to talk about his great book, The Continuous Vegetable Garden. And then coming up next Saturday on the show, we've got Cisco Morris. many of you might not be familiar, but maybe some of you are. But Cisco is a Pacific Northwest treasure when it comes to gardening. He's been a personality on the Northwest, Pacific Northwest, mainly like Seattle area and all of that, television, radio for decades and decades. He's got just such amazing, wonderful, awesome personality and tells some of the funniest gardening stories you'll ever hear. So you're not going to want to miss out on next Saturday's show to get some good old school garden knowledge and garden stories from our good friend of the show, Cisco Morris, joining with us next Saturday on the show. And then next Sunday, we'll have another discussion for you. I haven't quite solidified some plans yet for next Sunday, but we'll have something for you for sure coming up this next weekend here on the show. So, all right, everybody, he's been waiting in the wings. He's been waiting now for a couple of months, actually. We've all been waiting for quite a while now to get this guy back on our show, because it's always so awesome to be able to have him here for a discussion, and not just a great gardening discussion, but to answer all of your gardening questions. It's time for Gardener Scott. All right, here he is. Let's welcome to the show. It's Scott Wilson from the Gardener Scott channel. Finally back on the show again. Here you are.
Good to see you. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. That's for sure. That's for sure. I don't even know what to think. Here we are back again.
Yeah,
love having you on the show.
Been months.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in fact, let's just jump right into it. What have you been up to for the last few months?
I've been doing a lot of traveling. I don't normally travel during the summer, but this year with weddings and other life events, and then a little bit of vacation, I've traveled more this summer than I can remember. Even when the kids and family would do the summer trips, this year was I won't say worse, because it's all been great. But it's definitely taken me away from the garden and from being here.
Yeah, definitely. Tell us a little bit about a trip or two that you've taken. Where have you gone?
The big one last month was to Croatia. So
Croatia,
about 2.5 weeks in Croatia, and it was fantastic.
Man, I can't imagine. What would you say? Was this your first time to that part of Europe?
Yeah. I've been to a number of different places, but that's the first time to that side of the Adriatic Sea. And it's interesting, because whenever I go anywhere, I look at the gardens. I try to talk to gardeners, and there are many small towns, ancient small towns. Some of the places we visited have a history that goes back a few thousand years, and they have a definite difference in their culture when it comes to gardens, particularly in the small towns, but even in the larger cities. People are growing their own vegetables, they're growing herbs, they're just getting out and doing what we all know as gardening. But it's something that their families have done for centuries, for generations. And to have the breakfasts with fresh tomatoes and fresh peppers, and then the lunches and the dinners all with fresh vegetables, often that were harvested immediately before the meal, it is just incredible.
Yeah, that's got to be pretty amazing. Like one of the first questions I ask a lot of our newer guests to the show is, how did you get started gardening? How did this come about? And every now and then folks will say, hey, I grew up with gardening, with my grandparents or parents and that sort of stuff. But a lot of people, we hear the pandemic or these other things where it's more recent that they're getting into it. But I bet you over there, that's a lifestyle. That's something everyone's grown up with. Everyone would tell the same story. I was out in a garden from when I was very, very little.
Yeah, and it really is, and it's more of a family affair as well. All the gardens I've had over the years, my kids weren't interested at all until they got older and had kids of their own. And then that's when they started gardening. So, to get my kids in the garden was a challenge. But in a culture like that, it's kids, it's grandparents, it's everybody side by side working in the garden. So it really is something that they don't look at it the same way we do. It's just, that's what they do. It's expected. Nobody complains. And I just love that.
Oh man, it's just, I bet that would be just completely amazing. I'll share with you, one of my things since getting into like garden communicating, and doing a channel and this show and all that sort of stuff, or maybe even a little bit longer, as I was starting to think about and contemplate all this sort of stuff. One of the first things that I thought of would be just the greatest thing ever would be to do kind of an Anthony Bourdain style gardening show, where, it's not necessarily the kitchen is the center, but the garden is the center, where food is the topic, right?
Yeah.
But yet, going to different countries and being able to learn about how gardens play within these different cultures throughout the world and stuff. And, and to be able to see and learn those differences in how they, treat and maintain gardens and stuff. I bet it'd just be something really amazing. Croatia would be a great destination, some gardens in Asia and South America and different places where people are, because people are growing and gardening all over the world everywhere you go, right?
Yeah. And I actually talked about that on a live stream before I did that trip and asked my audience, because that's a thought I've had as well, is to travel and make the travel videos with a focus on a garden. So this Croatia trip, I'm not making a video about it, but while we were traveling, we were doing some of the exploration as though we would be making a video, just to kind of get the feel for what would be involved to actually start doing a series of videos like that.
Oh, that would be amazing. You'd probably do such an excellent job at it too. I could imagine that they'd be great.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, and to your point exactly, because I have some travel videos, where I go to botanic gardens, and when I was in Scotland and went to different gardens and did the flower show in the UK, and those were more just, here I am doing this thing, whereas the videos that exactly as you explained it, we wanted to see how easy or difficult it might be to actually talk with local gardeners and to find gardens with that thought, where we would be not so much interviewing, but just having a gardening conversation with somebody in a different country. So we learned a lot. Don't know if that'll happen, because we did learn that it would be very, very challenging, more work and not so much vacation. So we'll see how that evolves.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's the thing. Everything looks great. You watch the final video and you get to see all these sights and all these things and everything, but you don't really see the fact that was just a bunch of work and writing and meeting people and arranging things, times to meet up and just all of that kind of production work that would go into it. But it would still be so fun to be able to get to see these places and these different types of cultural gardens. It would just be amazing.
Definitely.
Right on here real quick, everybody. This is Ask Gardener Scott. I know we're on a Saturday show versus the Sunday show. I think we did this last time too. We switched it up a little bit.
One or two times ago. I forget exactly, because it's been so long. But yeah, I'm getting busier these days, and so I don't always have the second Sunday free.
That's right. But if we could squeeze you in here on a third Saturday, then that's just fine with us for sure. So everybody, if you got your garden questions, drop those into our chat there, and we'll start getting into some of those here in just a couple of minutes. Also, So you've been away, and again, one of the biggest things for a lot of us gardeners, I've seen people do videos and things on this, and I'm sure you've probably done your own videos as well too, when it comes to traveling and maintaining a garden. What are some of these things that people should be thinking about, especially if they're going to be out traveling as much as you have this last summer, and maybe something that you've kind of learned this time around, or anything, about your own space and taking time away in order to go visit some of these other places you've been?
Yeah, it's a lot like, our babies. Our
Yeah.
gardens take up so much of our time, and they're so much of our focus. And so, in the past when I've traveled, I've got dogs, you've got to find a dog sitter to take care of your dogs. Well, it's the same basic idea. Chances are you're not going to be leaving your actual children for 3 weeks at a time, but the garden needs that kind of attention, the same kind of attention that we would give to our kids or our dogs to a certain degree. And so I have a dog slash house sitter that I've used for
Okay, there you
a
go.
number of years, and she likes gardening. She understands it. She watches videos, my videos in particular, and so has a really good feel for my garden. And it took me years and years and years to find somebody like that. And
Yeah.
so you can start with your family, you can ask neighbors, you can there are some house sitting apps or sites that actually do have, like, as a subtext, interest in gardening. You might be able to find somebody like that. But that's the hardest part, because the month of July, I had another trip at the beginning of the month. So I was gone all but like 6 days of the month.
Oh, wow.
And I
Yeah.
had everything planted, everything was growing. And so that really does require a lot of focus and attention. And if I didn't have somebody that I trusted, I wouldn't have done anywhere near the number of plants that I put into the garden. And she did great. I came back and the plants were all alive. The weeds were incredible, but at least the garden has grown, and now I can just fit right in and keep going.
Yeah. Well, that's a great idea. If you can find somebody you can trust or something to be able to get in and to help you take care of everything as well too. That
And you might need to adjust your schedule, because last year when I went to the UK, I did that in May. And May is normally the time of year that I'm just beginning to do some seeding and transplanting in the garden. But I knew I couldn't because of my schedule. So last year I cut way back in the size of my garden because the timing didn't match. And that's another aspect of the travel as a gardener, is you might not be able to grow everything that you would in a typical year. You do need to adjust your garden based on how much time you're going to be in the garden.
Yeah. Definitely some considerations to make. You might not do certain things or grow certain things as well too, because you just don't have the time to be maintaining them on a regular basis like you normally would, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Excellent. Right on. So how is the garden growing anyways? How's it?
Doing great.
Yeah.
One of the first things I did when I got back was had to prune the tomatoes dramatically. When I left, they were about 1.5 feet tall, and I had done an initial pruning. I'll prune off the lowest branches as the plant grows. When I got back, my tomatoes were 4 and 5 feet tall, and
wow.
there was nobody to pinch out the suckers.
Yeah.
And so they just were monstrous, and I had to do some very drastic pruning just to be able to get to the plants. And so they're doing great. They're recovered. I'm already harvesting tomatoes, which is awesome. Today I harvested some shishito peppers that we'll have with dinner tonight. And I've got kohlrabi that is ready to harvest, beets that are ready to harvest, carrots that are ready to harvest. So the garden is doing great.
Loaded up.
And it is. We've been, like many areas, it's been a very hot and dry summer. And so these last couple days, we've actually been getting some afternoon thunderstorms that are dropping the rain. So it's cooling things down. The plants love that, because when it's too hot,
Yeah.
you're gonna have flowers that don't pollinate because it's just too hot, or the flowers are gonna fall off. So I don't have as much as I might normally if we were normal. Normal for me is 80 to 85 degrees in summer, and we've been 10 and 15 degrees hotter than that
Oh, wow.
every month for the last almost 3 months now. So
Yeah.
it's nice to see things kind of get back to normal, because the fruit is really beginning to set.
Yeah, yeah, and that's just, something really strange as I, think about it each week as I talk to people and stuff, because everybody else is still experiencing these extreme heats and all of that. But for some reason, right here in Southern Oregon, this summer is a bit cooler than what we've been over the last 10 plus years, as things have been just getting incrementally hotter and hotter and hotter. But for some reason, I mean, we just got done with a little heat wave this last week where it was reaching into the hundreds. But I mean, I could probably count the 100-degree days that we've had on, 6, 7 of them, I think, total so far this summer. Whereas normally we'd have 20, 30 plus and lots of highs in the upper 90s, when it gets a little cool and all that. So we've had some really extremely hot summers over the last many summers that have been a challenge, especially for my tomato plants. But this year, they're growing like gangbusters this year. I mean, I got tomatoes all over the place. My plants are loaded down with tomatoes, which is just,
Nice.
in a way, now it makes me feel like those first years when I was growing tomatoes before it started really getting hot like that here. We've got kind of like maybe just one of those summers, that's just a little bit different than the others. But man, I'll take it though.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I still hear from everybody else how, again, how much they're losing off of their plants. Like you said, it gets up to that type of temperature, those flowers dry right up and fall right off, and plants just want to kind of go a little almost dormant. They just want to kind of stop and hold for a minute, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, really awesome. And again, I don't get too many tomatoes over the last few years, so it's been amazing. I've just got them all over the place, loving it. So, all right, let's jump in here. I know we got a few questions. Everybody, have you got any questions? Have you dropped your questions into the chat there for Scott? Let's ask some questions and see what we can learn here with our good friend gardener Scott. Let's see. John Jude asking, Gardener Scott, question: does it matter if I pick peppers any time
Of day?
of day? Is what I'm thinking. Yeah.
So I've never noticed much of a difference, particularly with peppers. The general guideline is harvest early in the morning, because the plants haven't been stressed by the heat of the day. The particularly root vegetables might be a little bit sweeter. The plant is not going to suffer as much when you suddenly, pick something off of it.
Right.
And so
that is a little stress, huh?
It does. It's just like if we pruned off, leaves or branches, it's a stress to the plant. But particularly peppers, you can harvest anytime. And like I said, I harvested the shishito peppers today. It was probably about 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
It was still, it's a relatively cool day today, but it was beginning to warm up. There are days I'll go out right before dinner and I'll harvest a pepper. If you did chemical analysis, you might be able to see that there's a little bit of difference, but I've never been able to taste any difference. Now, there are, some plants like spinach, lettuce, the leafy greens in particular, they're more likely to wilt during the hot day. And so if you go out and harvest them in the middle of the day, you're going to have wilted lettuce in your salad. So that makes more sense to do it earlier or later. But tomatoes, peppers, squash, melons, for most people who are gardening, if you've got the time to do it, then do it. If if you're working full time, you're not going to be able to necessarily pick the ideal time. So just pick it whenever you're ready, and you'll probably not be able to tell any difference either.
Yeah, yeah. And what about, instead of time of day, what about time in the stage of the plant growth or the development of the fruit? Because I think one of the things we know about peppers is you can get them even pretty green, right?
Yeah, peppers are one of those plants that once it begins to fruit, you can harvest it at any time. You know, when you think of a jalapeno pepper, they're green. Well, green, as far as jalapenos are concerned, means it's not ripe. It's an immature or young pepper, but that's what people think of as a jalapeno pepper. But if you wait until it turns red, it actually has a different flavor. And that's the thing about most peppers, like the green peppers that, the bell peppers that you get at the store. They might have a little bit of sweetness, but generally they're maybe a little tart. They're got lots of juice. They're fun to eat. But if you let that same pepper stay on the plant until it turns to whatever color it is, it might be a yellow pepper, red pepper, orange pepper, purple pepper. If you wait until it reaches that ripeness, it's going to be sweeter. It's going to have a more depth to its flavor. And so almost all the peppers, except for the shishitos, I wait until they change color to harvest them. But
is that the same true for heat?
Yes and no. So if you leave a jalapeno on the plant to turn red, it'll start getting little cracks in it, like little scars as it ages. And I don't detect a whole lot of difference, but I know some people who want that fully mature pepper because it does offer a different heat component.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, I was just showing people earlier my pepper experiment I'm running right now as I'm trying to breed out a certain type of sugar rush peach pod. And as I was talking with Willie earlier, like I've come to discover with my plants this year, I should have done a different strategy versus the strategy I did with just one pod and done a few different groupings or whatever, because grow them all out and spend all this time growing these pepper plants to the point where I find out that the plant is, reverting more to its original genetics on that pod. Even though it was a really solid pod that I was looking for, it still had most of its original genetics, and I'm finding that most of the plants that we've grown so far. So I'm gonna have to try a different pod out that we've collected from last year and everything. But
I'm doing that with a tomato variety. I think I may have mentioned it before. And so I'll do, a couple different tomatoes from the same plant. And then each year we'll grow a couple different plants from the different seeds. And I'm saying that I'm in the 4th or 5th generation with some of the seeds I'm using. And some of the plants are reverting back to their original genetics. And so you just have to keep refining, keep picking the ones that have the traits that you're looking for, and then hopefully eventually you're able to have that new variety.
Grab those genetics somewhere where they're just kind of flowing through, the different plants and each generation that you're growing, and hopefully one of them will pop and it'll be the right one, and that's where they'll stabilize from there. But it could take years, it could take seasons. One thing I guess I really like about peppers is you can kind of get a couple of generations growing throughout a year versus waiting one whole year per generation. So but that experiment keeps going. That's part of the fun of gardening, when you get into, I guess, this level where you're experimenting on that level of growing plants. All right, let's see here. Bowtie Life asks a question for you to ask. Oh, what? When is it? How are your plans for getting to meet us? Oh. This is okay. I was going to get to this. I jumped into that question already.
Okay, no problem. So I'm set to speak at the fall festival at Baker Creek next month, and we've been communicating. They know which flights I want to take, and we're not at the point yet to set up a hotel room. But the flight information has already been figured out, and I'm planning to be there.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah. And that's one of the Serena's also asking as well too if you're planning on being at the Baker Creek Festival next month. And as David's asking, I'm trying to plan on it. I'm working on it. I should hopefully have most of my finalized things I've got to take care of first.
Yeah, he mentioned that you
over
were
the next
planning
week
to
or
be.
so. Yeah, so I'm hoping to. I haven't quite planning yet. I'm planning on it.
Yeah.
It's still at this moment. So I should hopefully be able to let everybody know here pretty soon if things are working out, if we're able to make it out there and everything, because it'd be so fun to not only get out there and do the Baker Creek's National Heirloom Exposition, which I've gone to many, many years of it, as they've done it in Northern and Southern California for years. But this is going to be the first one out at the farm. I've never been out to Missouri to the Baker Creek farm to see what's growing on out there, and I'd really, really love to be able to make it there to get to see everybody and to do that, as well as meet my good friend Gardner Scott in person. I mean, how awesome would that be, right? Yeah, and do maybe a live show there and everything. So we're kind of working some things out. I got a phone call with Jer coming up this next week, so we should I should know a little bit more about what we're going to do on that. So stay tuned, everybody. We will see.
And so if anyone is wondering what it looks like or what it's about, I actually visited Baker Creek a number of years ago and did a video about it. And interviewed Jer for a little bit. But the weather, there was an ice storm coming, so we had to cut everything short. And I only, have about 5 minutes of him in my video because we didn't have much time. But I am planning on staying an extra day to be able to chat with him and hopefully turn it into a video.
Yeah, get a little bit more of what you were trying to get done the first time done. Yeah. You went in and you were getting to check out all the seeds, the seed part of the business and all of that stuff as well too. That would be really fun to see. They got all those greenhouses out there. I think that's my big thing is I just love to go tour and check out all those just amazing greenhouses with all the different climates and things that they're doing in there and growing all these different amazing things. It's just got to be a gardener's paradise out there for sure, right?
Well, it's a beautiful area. It's it's down a little road, like in the middle of nowhere, just surrounded by trees, on an old homestead, and it's a really beautiful area.
Yeah. I want to bring a tent and do some camping out there too. That'd be fun.
There you go.
Yeah, excellent. See, Rebecca's garden was in there. Maybe it's kind of a large question here, but maybe we can cut it down to a few different fine points. But asks, how can you garden with a low budget? She says low twice, so this must mean we're really, really cutting our budget thin there.
It's pretty easy. I've talked about this a number of times over the years. I got a few different videos on it. The first thing to do is start with the seeds, and you don't have to spend a dime. Sorry, my dogs are barking.
I was going to say there's Nala and they're going at it. Somebody must be outside somewhere.
Yeah, they were napping. And so, find seeds. Most gardeners are willing to share seeds. There are many libraries that actually will have a seed library. So you just go to a normal book library, and there might be a corner in the back where they are loaning seeds. And the idea is that you get seeds at the library, grow a plant, and then at some point donate seeds back to the library. And then there are, the cheap seeds. You can go to the dollar stores and get a packet of seeds for, 10 cents, maybe a quarter for the really expensive ones. And so that's a good way to start, because the reason I mentioned seeds, a lot of gardeners will go to a nursery or they'll go to a garden center and they'll buy a plant, and that's what they put in the garden. And so, prices of those keep going up. And so you go and buy.
Can't believe some of the prices.
Yeah, a single tomato plant might be $6 to transplant in your garden. For that same $6, you can buy multiple packs of seeds and grow dozens of tomato plants. And so that's what I've been doing for years. And then,
Yeah.
you know, we were talking about your sugar rush pea and my
Yeah.
you know, tomato. You save the seeds of the plants that you are growing, and from that point on, it doesn't cost a dime. Black Krim tomato is my favorite tomato. I have not bought a Black Krim tomato seed in probably 15 years because I saved my own seeds, and it keeps going and going and going. I love raised beds, but you don't have to spend a lot of money to build a raised bed. You can just mound some soil and work in some homemade compost, and now you've got good soil to grow plants, and it didn't cost you anything. If you don't have tools, borrow the tools, or go to a thrift store and pay a fraction of the cost of the tools. So those are, you know, a couple really basic ideas of how you can garden for free, essentially, by just you know, planning ahead. And that's a big issue, is you really do need to plan, because if you're going to start tomatoes from seed, you got to start them weeks ahead of time indoors. If you're going to start a lot of, you know, peppers like we were talking about, you'll need to start them ahead of time. But if you're fine with growing you know, the plants you get at the supermarket, a lot of those plants you can just save the seeds. You know, you go buy something buy a red bell pepper at the store. That's a ripe bell pepper. Save those seeds. Try growing those and see what happens the next year.
Yeah. Find all sorts of ways. And again, too, you know, again, the prices of those plants you see at some of these, you know, the more of the big box stores we're visiting all the time and seeing that, you know, they got the plants out front. I mean, $5 and $6 a plant, or sometimes, you know, just 6-packs if you can find those. And that's just a lot of money. And I think that becomes I think that becomes something that discourages some folks, especially with the low budgets, you know, from actually getting started gardening. But then it does also, like you said, the best budget benefit is starting from seed, and then that might feel a little daunting, but yet at the same time, you know, you're really getting to learn about your plants and growing and taking on that, you know, that kind of lesson, if you will, in gardening and growing, and saving a bunch of money at the same time to grow your own starts. So it's just really, it really is the way to go. I remember at first, when I was first starting gardening and everything too, it was like starting something from seed was really kind of daunting to me. I was like, I don't know if I can really, you know, do this or everything. So I was buying those starts at the store and everything. But once I started growing things from seed, I found out that it wasn't as hard as I thought it was.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's, I think, the biggest lesson in it. It seems daunting. It seems like it's a harder way to go, but it really isn't. It's really just a budget way to save in your garden space for sure. And like you're saying about, you know, find some local things, right? Local seed swaps, local garden clubs, go to and if you don't know where those are, find a community garden or something, and then go there and ask some people. They'll know, you know. And then, you know, or if you have an extension, these are places that you can call up, and they'll set you on the right path to find some of those events locally where you can, again, you take $6 to a seed swap, you're going to come out with more seeds than you're ever going to be able to plant in your garden for sure. So
and go at the end of the seed swap, because most gardeners will take all their seeds, you know, if they're selling or charging something, they don't want to have to tote them all home, so they'll end up giving them away. We do that at my garden club plant sale, and when we have seed swaps as well, that what may be cheap early on, by the time you get to the end, we're just giving stuff away.
Yeah. You're just walking around like, you know, let people know you're on a budget too. Gardeners are generous, you know what I mean? So there's another thing, you know, as well. And get to some community gardens, like I said, you get some folks, they'll be handing you out little plant starts too if you have a hard time with seed as well. I remember my first year at my community garden, I got tons of plants from the other gardeners who were just trying to help me get my plot filled up and everything. Yep. And they just want to help, and they just want to see you grow things and stuff too. So gardeners are generous. Just get the word out there locally.
Yes.
Yeah, excellent. Let's see here. Serena's asking, Gardener Scott, do you have any Kellogg's breakfast tomato seeds?
I do. Yeah. That's one of those that I save. I actually have some growing right now, as a matter of fact. But that's a very common variety. I've seen those, for sale in a number of different places. But it's a nice big orange tomato that it doesn't have an intense flavor, but it's a beautiful tomato, and I've grown it for years, and that's one of the ones I'll save seeds from.
Definitely. And I know Serena was asking earlier when Will was on about, and I think we've talked about this before last year, because I know there were some big broods last year, but she was asking about cicadas.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. Cicadas, are they bad for our gardens? Are they going to mess everything up? What are we expect?
The thing about the cicadas, depending on the type of cicada, it might be a 7-year cicada or a 15-year cicada or a 17-year cicada. They have different life cycles all around the world, and the female will lay eggs in a tree typically, and that can cause some damage. They actually make a little slit in the trunk and lay the eggs, and so that could cause some damage if the tree is weakened. It rarely, if ever, will kill the tree, and it might dry out. Some of the leaves might dry out, but that's not a big deal. The eggs, once they hatch, the larva will actually then go into the soil. And so when you've got a 17-year cicada, it's living most of that time in the soil. And they don't have chewing mouth parts. They have a little needle that they'll stick into the roots. And that's how they survive. They just essentially attach themselves to tree roots. And they're very small, so it's not like they're sucking the tree dry. And even with thousands of cicadas that are attached to the roots, the tree isn't affected. So it's not going to kill trees. They're not going to be eating any garden plants when they emerge. They emerge, and all they want to do is mate. They're not going to be eating our gardens, and then the females will lay the eggs. So now it's not that big a deal. Technically, there is a little bit of damage. But not so much that it's really anything to be worried about. And if you notice, like the areas like we were talking about before, the infestations, you'll look up in the trees and you hear the cacophony. There are thousands of cicadas on a single tree, and not a leaf is falling.
Yeah. They're just up there doing one thing, trying to ensure that the next generation, and I mean, interesting though. I mean, what do you know really? And I guess what's the benefit of a cicada? What do they do in the sense of what do they, is it just maybe, are they food for other living things? Or it seems as their life cycle is just to reproduce.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So for not all birds will eat them, but particularly like marsupials, the small animals will eat them. And so it is a food source. I think their primary purpose is just to be crushed on the road so that kids can go sliding and,
Yeah. I remember visiting New York one of the year they had a big broods out there out in Queens. And just the streets were lined with these things. You literally, if you picked your feet up, you were crunching through like almost like going through snow in a way. So you kind of had to drag your feet so you weren't crunching all the time and just kind of sliding through these things. It's such a horrible mess. And the noise, though, like you said, the noise they make, that's something out of a horror movie almost. I mean, they just, All right, let's see here. Rebecca's Gardening is asking, how do you get seeds from overripe cucumbers? Now, cucumbers, the seeds are kind of like tomatoes in a way. They got this like little gel kind of thing around them and everything. Are we doing kind of a similar process?
Yeah,
with
you
those?
can. The important thing to highlight is overripe cucumber. That's exactly what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Cucumbers, we will harvest when they're green and eat them when they're young, but you really want it to turn yellow or orange. That's overripe. That's when the seeds are going to be at their mature point that you can harvest. And then it's just cutting, scooping them out. What you're referring to, for people who don't know, is you'll take tomato seeds, and that gelatinous cover is really intended to hinder germination in a tomato because it's so wet. And so you have to break that gel, and you do that through fermentation. You put the tomato seeds in a little bit of water in a bowl, and it gets all fuzzy with all the mold that develops, and that breaks down that gel, and then you dry the tomato seeds. You can do that with cucumbers, but it's not as necessary as it is with the tomatoes. You can just lay them down on a paper towel or paper plate, and that paper will absorb that gel. And then just kind of, after they dry, rub them a little bit, and you'll be able to rub off that extra little bit of membrane that might remain. And that's it. Because it's a wet seed, those seeds, the tomato seeds, the squash seeds, the cucumber seeds, the melon seeds, you do need to wait a longer period of time for those seeds to dry, because the environment that they're in is so wet, and they're usually bigger seeds, so they'll take a little bit longer to dry. Key point being that you don't want to store the seeds while they're wet or still moist, because they can get mold and rot over the course of storage. So just lay them out on a paper towel or a paper plate in an off corner of your kitchen, and just let them dry for a few weeks. Rub them, clean them a little bit. Then I'll set them usually like in a jar with the top off, so that there's some air for additional drying. And I usually let the seeds like that dry for a couple months before I'm sealing them in any type of long-term storage.
Excellent. And Serena's kind of on the same subject, tomatoes, seeds in a jar, waiting for them to sink. How long does it take, and how do you know which seeds are good?
It just takes a couple of minutes. So if you're waiting for them to sink and they're not sinking, then they're not viable seeds. So if you put the tomato seeds in, and this holds true for most seeds, if you put them in a jar of water, the ones that sink to the bottom are heavier. They have the embryo inside. The ones that don't have an embryo, that are like flat and empty with airspace, they'll float to the top. And so when we do like the tomato fermentation, and you are mixing or separating the seeds, you'll put it into a jar, and the pulp will float to the top, the dead seeds will float to the top, and the viable seeds will drop to the bottom. And so you just pour off that top layer, and then I usually put it into a sieve, drain the water through, and whatever remains that has sunk to the bottom are the good ones.
Yeah. It's usually like you're saying, those big flat ones, like a pumpkin or squash, those sort of ones. Melons, sometimes they'll float up there because, again, like you said, they got some sort of air or something in there, making them float around. I'm always like, get down in there. I don't. I try to soak them up a little bit before I put them out there, but let's see here. Next. Rebecca's Garden says, I put eggshells in my compost and coffee and banana and whatever kitchen scraps I can, toilet paper rolls, but it's not quite breaking down yet. How long does compost really take?
So it depends. It depends on the moisture levels. It depends on the oxygen levels. It depends, most importantly, on the nitrogen and carbon levels. So when you put something like coffee, which has a minor nitrogen component to it, but the paper rolls are heavy carbon material. Banana peels tend to be a little bit of nitrogen, but then they dry out very quickly, so then they become a carbon. To just throw things in a pile, it's going to take a year, maybe a year and a half. That's slow composting, and it's just gradual decomposition. If you want fast compost, then you need to balance. You need to make sure you've got green nitrogen components and brown carbon components, that you're mixing the pile, that it's consistently moist, and then the temperature will rise. And so when you monitor the temperature, a cold pile or cool pile might be 80 degrees because of the bacteria that are responsible for decomposition. But when you do everything right and you've got a mix of those ingredients, not just random things you're throwing in the compost, you can get the temperature up to 140 degrees, 160 degrees Fahrenheit, and you'll have compost in a matter of just a few weeks. So that's the difference. If you just throw things in a pile and expect it to break down, it's going to take months. If you take a scientific approach and you turn the pile to bring up that oxygen level, then the thermophilic bacteria is that bacteria that moves very quickly. It just explodes in population. That's what creates that high temperature, and that's what enables you to get compost in a short amount of time.
Yeah. And Rebecca's mentioning eggshells in there, and we've talked about this many times as well too.
The
eggshells will
are going
take
to take
forever.
Years.
Forever.
Yeah, they're not going to break down in a compost pile. So I mean, it's nice to throw them in if you want, but it's not adding anything to the pile.
Yeah. And like I think Serena was mentioning, you can try to grind them down, get them ground down into like a powder or something like that, and then give them their better chance of breaking down a little bit sooner. But those things are going to take a long time when it comes down to it. They aren't really the big beneficial thing for our garden like we hear about online all the time, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's a different type of calcium than the type of calcium that plants actually need. It's a different type of calcium than is naturally occurring in the soil. And so it's nice. I will add eggshells just for the earthworms. Earthworms have gizzards, and they can actually break down the calcium in an eggshell, and it helps their gizzard. But other than that, it really doesn't add much benefit.
Yeah, for sure. So you got to watch those things, especially around this time of year as well, too, as I see online. Every single year, people start posting those pictures of their blossom end rot, whether it's on their tomatoes or their other fruiting vegetables and things that they're growing in their garden. Blossom end rot comes up and everybody's like, oh, you need some eggshells or calcium and all that sort of stuff, right? And that's just not the eggshells, and added calcium really aren't the thing that we're looking for when it comes to that issue, right?
Yeah, blossom end rot is technically a calcium deficiency in the plant as the fruit is forming. The problem is that has nothing to do with what calcium is actually in the soil. It is almost always a watering problem, because the plant isn't getting enough water or is getting too much water. And so it can't uptake the calcium when the fruit is forming, because just about, this is one of those things about understanding soil. And so if you look at or listen to soil experts, almost unanimously, they'll tell you that across the planet, there's enough calcium in all of our soils. Unless it is, severely depleted for some strange reason, there's enough calcium in your soil to grow tomatoes. So if you've got blossom end rot, it's because the watering was ineffective.
Yeah, it's the plant itself. It's the root system itself from being able to absorb and uptake that calcium that's available, should be readily available in your soil. And that's where the issue lies. It's its ability to actually absorb it.
The other thing that, you've heard this and a lot of others, you add Epsom salts to your
Right.
tomatoes when you plant. Well, Epsom salts are magnesium sulfate. And
Yeah.
if there's too much of that in the soil, it's going to lock out the calcium. And so if you're adding a lot of Epsom salts to your soil, you may actually be creating blossom end rot because the tomato plant is absorbing the magnesium and not absorbing the calcium.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? Again, too, I was mentioning gangbusters of tomatoes over here and no blossom end rot to be found this year. So I'm like, oh, really great. We've got the water balanced out. We're doing it just right. Trying to keep my water timing just perfect, because that really is the solution when it comes down to it, is making sure. And I think really when what I've found, at least in the example of this season, is keeping consistent watering, but in warm, hot temperatures, making sure that my plants are not drying out at all. I'm not letting them get too dry, because again, we're in a lot of containers, lots of big containers and things, and just making sure they don't dry out, because that's really going to cause your root systems from not being able to take up calcium, is just having dry soil. I mean, they can't take up anything at that point.
Exactly. So you shouldn't let it get completely dry, because whatever is forming on the plant is going to probably have blossom end rot. And sometimes you don't have control. Robin's point about, hot and then a lot of rain, sometimes nature is just going to cause it. If you have those really hot, dry conditions followed by 3 days of torrential rain, followed by hot conditions, sometimes you just can't avoid the blossom end rot. It's for what you're talking about. When you have control over the consistency, then you can manage it.
Yeah, that's for sure. And again, not making sure that with all of our containers, we're keeping that watering consistency right. And oh man, I lost track of what I was going to say there. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh, that happens sometimes. I was looking over here on the chat where I was trying to think of what I was
trying
saying.
to read your mind about what you might have been wanting to say. That's people who put their tomatoes in particular like on an automatic timer and have an irrigation system that they never change. You could be creating a problem just because you're trying to make the watering easy. You really do need to monitor the soil level and make sure you're not over or under watering.
Yeah. Now I remember what my point was that when you were mentioning that, when these things are happening, it's not getting the right consistency of water. That's when it's going to affect those plants when they're happening. But it's really only those fruits, really, at that timing, those flowers. Yeah, it's not the whole plant, because your next ones after that, once you get that consistency back in there, like you said, if nature's kind of causing some issues and problems, it's going to be during that time period, those fruits that are forming at that time of the plant's growth. And those ones later are probably going to be more normal, right?
Yeah, and that's why, a lot of people think it's a serious disease, because they'll have 10 plants and all 10 will have blossom end rot. Well, because as those fruits were forming, all of the plants were affected. And I get it occasionally, and it's usually earlier in the season when we have some torrential thunderstorms that are rolling through. And it's like all the tomatoes at that level have blossom end rot, but then the next ones that grow are perfectly fine. And every one after that is perfectly fine. So it is a snapshot in time, and whatever's on the plant is going to be affected, but the plant's going to keep growing.
Yeah, excellent. Rebecca's Garden asks, can I put worms in my rolling compost bin?
You can, but it gets back to the whole temperature idea. So earthworms are great for breaking down the food materials. That's what vermicomposting is. But particularly the red wigglers, which are the most common composting worm, they can only survive in a very narrow range of temperatures. So if you put them in your rolling compost and then that pile warms up, you're going to kill all the worms.
Yeah.
And if you don't turn the bin and keep it cool, then the worms will eventually eat it all. And what you'll be left with is worm castings rather than actual compost. So worms can help, but it's kind of an either or. There's two different ways of breaking down the organic material, either through the gut of an earthworm or with the bacteria breaking it down.
Yeah. All right. One last quick question here from Jay. I thought this was a pretty good question here, or anyway, or let's see here. If you could give an experienced gardener one challenge for the next year, not a basic gardening task, but something that would generally make them observe, experiment to garden better. Do you have like something that you would want a new gardener or no, experienced gardener, give an experienced gardener one challenge for next year?
Yeah, I would say hand water everything. A lot of gardeners, particularly experienced gardeners, get good enough that they have their soaker hoses, they've got their drip irrigation, they have their timers, and
that's a good answer.
The idea to get out and hand water every single plant, and then understand why you're doing that. Do it so that you're physically checking the soil to see if that plant even needs watering. Or if it needs more water than you thought it might need. And then as you're watering, look at the plant and see if there's any insect eggs on it, or if there's an insect that's showing up that you weren't expecting. And then also look at like the flower formation. We were talking about the temperature. When you're up close and personal with your plants every single day, you can notice when the flowers are falling off and not pollinating. You can notice on your cucumbers or your squash that maybe you have nothing but male flowers and you're not getting any female flowers. And so a lot of the issues that we as gardeners are concerned about, why don't I have any squash growing on my squash plants? Or why is this insect devouring all of my lettuce? You can often see those things happening early while you're just watching the plants as you water effectively, and you can prevent a problem before it ever even becomes a problem. So it's just getting up close and personal with your plants, and then developing that understanding or your own philosophy about how you do it, because it ties in the soil, ties in the plant, ties in the insects, ties in the fruit, and it all starts by just hand watering and caring about your plants individually.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. I like that. Again, a great way to observe everything going on in your garden. Get out there and water it by hand for sure. Well, right on. There goes again another great conversation. I can't believe it. A whole hour just like that. Boom.
There you go.
So awesome to have you back here, Gardener Scott. Thank you for joining with us today. And we usually at the end of the show talk about like videos, live streams. What's your upcoming video you got coming up here?
And so I'm working on a couple of videos. I'll be doing one about building a foundation for a greenhouse. I've got one coming up about GMO tomatoes. I'm growing GMO tomatoes this year.
Okay.
I've got one coming up about how you can start tomatoes from seed outdoors, even when you live in a cold region like Colorado. So those are the ones that are actually in the pipeline right now that are in varying stages of
production. There you go. So excellent. Keep an eye out for those videos, as well as Gardener Scott is live on his channel on Monday mornings. I think that's about 8 a.m. Pacific time.
Yep.
11 a.m. For all of you on the East Coast. Other time zones adjust for that. But you got anything specific you're talking about this Monday?
Yeah, I've been leading up to it. So over the course of the year so far, I've talked about all the different stages of growing plants. I talked about harvesting a few weeks back. And so on Monday, I'll be talking about preserving the crops. What to do after you harvest, because when we get inundated with a lot of fruits or roots or leaves, sometimes we don't know what to do with it. So I'll be talking about some ideas of using the crops that you're harvesting.
Excellent, excellent. So definitely go and check out Gardner Scott live on Monday morning. Keep an eye out for his upcoming videos. We've got links down below. And I also like to remind everybody too, Gardner Scott's an author. He's got a really amazing book on raised bed gardening. We've also got a link right down below so you can get yourself a copy of his guide to raised bed gardening. Thanks again, Scott. It's been so awesome to have another conversation. Finally, after a while, we got you back here, and we should have you back on normal time for September coming up as well, too.
Yeah, as of right now, it shouldn't be a problem. So if it is, I'll let you know. But it looks like September and October and November are clear.
Excellent, excellent. We look forward to it. If you didn't get your gardening questions answered, either come and check him out on his live stream on Monday. He'll be sure ready to answer it, or come back again with us when we have him back on with the show this next month for all your questions answered. Thanks, Scott, so much for being here.
Thanks,
really
Andy.
awesome
Thanks,
to hang out with you, and we look forward to having you on the next time.
And a big shout out to Willie, because I thought you did great.
Yes,
I know you were concerned, man, but you did a great job. I love your hat. And
yes, Air Force.
Everybody does great.
All right. Excellent, excellent. Thanks, Scott. We'll see all of you guys one quick minute, and I'll be back. We'll finish this all up. All right, all right. Again, I tell you, another great, amazing show here on the Let's Get Growing show with our good friend Scott Wilson from the Gardner Scott channel, answering all of your gardening questions. Man, we'll always learn so much when he comes around. Thank you all for all of your awesome questions. And again, thanks to Will, our BigWilldog in the soil, for joining us here on our Are You Following Me today. It was great to talk with him about what he's got growing on in the garden, and just really, really amazing to have all of you here with us as well too. So definitely remember, we are back here again tomorrow. That's right. Tomorrow's the Sunday edition of the show. We've got our monthly gardening book club with our good friend, Mr. MBC, joining us live tomorrow in the garden, talk about what he's got growing on in all of his different garden spaces, as well as co-hosting our conversation with Charlie Nardozzi tomorrow. We've got Charlie on the show to talk about his book, The Continuous Vegetable Garden. Really great book. Can't wait for this conversation tomorrow, so you don't want to miss out on that. So be sure to come and join with us for tomorrow's show. And then, as I mentioned earlier, next Saturday, we've got joining with us our Pacific Northwest treasure. I call him our treasure because Cisco Morris is just an amazing guy. He tells some of the greatest, funniest stories. He's just an awesome, amazing personality when it comes to the gardening community, especially for those of us here in the Pacific Northwest. So again, it'll be great to have him on the show next Saturday. You're not going to want to miss out on that. Like I tell you, he tells some of the greatest gardening stories. I'm sure he'll have plenty to tell us again next Saturday as well. And then, of course, we're back also next Sunday. I'm still trying to figure out exactly who and what we'll have going on for our discussion and who we'll have in the hot seat for our discussion next Sunday. But we'll have something up for you as well next Sunday on the show too. So again, everybody, great to have you all here with us today. Thank you so much for being here. Hit that like button, thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, bell notification to be notified of all of our upcoming shows. Share with all your friends. Let them know that we're here every Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern. And yeah, definitely. Also, one more time here too, thank you everybody for your donations. All of your donations have been really, really helpful here for our show. Really appreciate it. You can continue to donate through links down below in the description to our Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal. And again, thank you so much, everybody. Over the last couple of weeks, we've gotten some great donations. If you haven't had a chance to yet, we always really appreciate your donations. No donations are too small. But if anything, we love all of the great stuff, the free stuff, the liking, the subscribing, the commenting. Go to our guests, comment on their stuff, and do all of that as well, too. That's really helpful for the show. We really, really appreciate it. And again, such a great day hanging out with all of you. I look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow on our show for our book club. So we'll see all of you then.
This is the ugliest plant in the world, but I love it.